The headlines flashed with brutal finality. Toyota to cease all U.S. operations at its Georgetown plant. The news broke like a thunderclap, echoing through Kentucky and far beyond. For many, it was unthinkable. Toyota, a pillar of the community and a symbol of stability, was shutting its doors. The story dominated every news channel, every radio station, every conversation in town. It was the kind of headline that made people stop in their tracks, hearts sinking as the reality set in. Kentucky's largest manufacturing employer, gone. 9,000 jobs vanished overnight. The scale of the loss was staggering, rippling out to touch not just the workers, but their families, friends, and neighbors. The plant had been a lifeline for so many, providing steady paychecks and a sense of purpose. Now, uncertainty loomed over every household. In Georgetown, the news wasn't just a headline, it was the third shift turned away at dawn, the sudden, unnatural quiet that settled over the industrial district. The hum of machinery, once a constant backdrop, was replaced by silence and the shuffling of feet as workers tried to process what had happened. The plant, once a monument to prosperity, now stood silent, its vast parking lots empty. Where there had been the bustle of cars and workers, there was now only stillness, a haunting reminder of what had been lost. The steam from its stacks was gone, leaving the sky over Georgetown eerily clear. The absence of that familiar plume was a signal to everyone. Things had changed, perhaps forever. In diners and coffee shops, conversations were hushed, faces drawn with worry. People gathered in small groups, searching for answers, sharing rumors, and trying to comfort one another. The usual morning chatter was replaced by anxious whispers and the clinking of coffee cups. The shutdown wasn't gradual, it was a sudden, catastrophic event. There was no time to prepare, no warning to soften the blow. One day the plant was alive with activity, the next it was shuttered, its gates locked tight. The heart of the community had stopped beating, leaving everyone to wonder what comes next. The uncertainty was palpable, hanging over the town like a heavy fog. People stood in the streets, searching each other's faces for hope or reassurance, but finding only more questions. Tension hung in the air. At school drop-off, parents exchanged worried glances, their minds racing with fears about the future. Children sensed the unease, clinging a little tighter to their parents before heading inside. Line workers, engineers, small business owners, all tied to the factory, faced the same questions. How will we pay the mortgage? What will happen to our savings? The ripple effect was immediate, as local shops and service providers braced for the impact of lost customers and shrinking paychecks. What about the kids' college funds? Families sat around kitchen tables tallying up bills and wondering how long their savings would last. Dreams of higher education, vacations, and even simple security suddenly seemed out of reach. For decades, Toyota was more than an employer. It was Georgetown's bedrock. Generations had worked there, building not just cars, but lives and futures. The plant had sponsored local events, supported schools, and helped shape the town's identity. Now, that foundation had fractured. The sense of security that once anchored the community was gone, replaced by anxiety and doubt. The cracks in the pavement outside the factory seemed to mirror the cracks forming in the town's spirit. As the sun rose, disbelief gave way to fear. People watched from their windows, struggling to accept the new reality. The day felt endless, each hour stretching out with no answers in sight. This wasn't just one company closing, it was a ripple effect touching every part of life. Playgrounds were quieter, shops closed early, and neighborhoods felt emptier. The loss radiated outward, affecting everyone, whether they worked at the plant or not. Local businesses, property values, and school funding, all at risk. For sale signs began to appear on lawns, and the future of local schools became uncertain as tax revenues dwindled. The entire fabric of Georgetown was being tested. The plant had symbolized American manufacturing might. It was a point of pride, a testament to what hard work and community could achieve together. Its closure felt like the loss of a dream, not just for Georgetown, but for the nation. Now it stood as a stark reminder of how quickly global forces can bring a thriving community to its knees. The silence was deafening, echoing through the empty halls and deserted parking lots. The sense of loss was overwhelming, a wound that would take years to heal. Georgetown's longest day had only just begun. As the hours ticked by, the community braced itself for what would come next, knowing that recovery would be slow and uncertain. But even in the face of such loss, the people of Georgetown began to look for ways to come together, to support one another, and to find hope in the darkness. The official announcement came at sunrise, casting a pale light over the silent factory grounds. The air was thick with uncertainty, as if the whole town was holding its breath, waiting for the news to settle in. Supply chain chaos, mounting tariff costs. Toyota was leaving. The news spread like wildfire, echoing through the empty corridors of the plant and reverberating across the community. For decades, this factory had been the heartbeat of the region, and now it was coming to a sudden halt. For thousands of TMMK employees, the words blurred into one harsh reality. The job was gone. Faces that once beamed with pride now wore expressions of disbelief and sorrow. The end of a shift had never felt so final. Phones rang across Scott County, frantic calls between spouses, parents, friends. Did you hear? Is it true? What now? The uncertainty was suffocating as families scrambled to make sense of what their future might hold. Families gathered around kitchen tables, staring at bills with new dread. The numbers on the page seemed to grow heavier, each dollar owed now a looming threat. Conversations turned to budgeting, sacrifices, and the unknowns that lay ahead. A husband and wife, both 20-year employees, suddenly faced no income, a mortgage, and a daughter starting college. Their carefully laid plans unraveled in an instant, replaced by anxiety and sleepless nights. The stability they'd built their lives on had evaporated in a single morning. The home they'd worked so hard for now felt fragile, as if it could slip away at any moment. The fear wasn't just for today, but for the future. Where could they find jobs like these, in a town now flooded with unemployed auto workers? The job market, once robust, was now saturated with skilled laborers all searching for the same dwindling opportunities. The sense of betrayal ran deep. These weren't just employees, they were partners in a legacy, men and women who had poured their energy and pride into every car that rolled off the line. Generations of families had worked here, believing in a shared future. They'd given loyalty and sweat, believing Toyota's commitment matched their own. The company's promises had been woven into the fabric of their lives, and now those threads were unraveling. Now, they felt abandoned, left to face the fallout of distant decisions. The sense of community that once bound them together was now tinged with uncertainty and loss. Shock hardened into quiet anger at forces beyond their control. Whispers of blame and frustration filled the air, as workers tried to process how quickly everything had changed. The union hall was flooded with members seeking answers no one had. Leaders tried to offer reassurance, but the truth was, no one knew what would come next. The uncertainty was overwhelming. Mental health hotlines and school counselors braced for a wave of despair. The emotional toll was immediate, as families and individuals struggled to cope with the sudden loss of security and purpose. The shutdown wasn't just a business closure, it was a social catastrophe. Local shops, restaurants, and service providers all felt the ripple effects as the economic engine of the town ground to a halt. The pillar that held up the region had crumbled. The town's identity, once defined by the hum of industry and the promise of steady work, now faced an uncertain and daunting future. To grasp the loss, you have to know what TMMK meant to Georgetown. It wasn't just a factory, it was the town's heartbeat, the engine of its economy, its modern identity. Before Toyota, Georgetown was a quiet agricultural town. The plant's arrival transformed it into a prosperous, manufacturing hub. The Toyota logo was everywhere on Little League jerseys, arts fair banners, and in the hearts of the people. The plant's payroll fueled the local economy, filling diners and driving the real estate market. Local suppliers and businesses thrived because of TMMK. Its property taxes funded schools, roads, and first responders. Losing the plant wasn't like losing a business, it was losing the town's organizing principle. Toyota shaped Georgetown's social and cultural landscape, investing in schools, nonprofits, and community events. The plant brought diversity and a sense of shared purpose. Georgetown's pride was palpable. Every Camry on the highway was a symbol of local achievement. Now that pride is replaced by loss. The shutdown attacks not just financial stability, but the town's sense of self-worth. The question lingers. Without Toyota, who are we? Georgetown faces an identity crisis. To truly understand the shockwaves that rippled through Kentucky in 2026, we have to look back to the 1980s, a time when hope was in short supply, and Toyota's arrival was hailed as nothing less than the Kentucky miracle. It was a turning point that would shape generations. Back then, Kentucky was facing tough times. Main streets were quiet, factories stood empty, and families worried about the future. When Toyota announced an $800 million investment, it wasn't just a business deal, it was a lifeline, promising thousands of desperately needed jobs and a chance to rebuild. The state fought fiercely to win the plant, competing with others across the nation. When Kentucky succeeded, it was a gamble that paid off in ways few could have imagined, igniting an economic revival that breathed new life into small towns and big dreams alike. The construction phase brought an immediate boost, new jobs, new businesses, and a sense of momentum. But the real transformation began in 1988, when the very first Camry rolled off the Georgetown assembly line, marking the start of a new era. The plant quickly became a symbol of efficiency and innovation, setting new standards for quality. It trained a new generation of skilled workers, giving people the tools and confidence to build world-class vehicles right here in Kentucky. For many, Toyota meant the difference between leaving home in search of work and building a future in their own backyard. Young families stayed, communities grew stronger, and hope returned to places that had nearly lost it. Over the years, the plant expanded again and again, adding new models and new opportunities. At its peak, it employed over 9,000 people, becoming one of the largest manufacturing employers in the state. The impact didn't stop at the factory gates. Toyota's presence sparked a ripple effect, creating tens of thousands of jobs statewide. Over 100 supplier plants sprang up to feed Georgetown, weaving a network of prosperity across Kentucky. The Georgetown plant proved that American workers and Japanese manufacturing philosophies could come together to create something extraordinary, vehicles recognized for their quality and reliability around the world. For decades, Toyota was more than just an employer, it was a source of pride, a symbol of what Kentucky could achieve, and a beacon of hope for families and communities. The community kept its promise, showing up day after day, year after year. Workers poured their skill and dedication into every car, earning a reputation for excellence that stretched far beyond state lines. Toyota became a true local partner, investing in schools, supporting charities, and building relationships that went far deeper than business. It was no longer just a foreign company, it was part of the Kentucky family. That's why the sudden shutdown in 2026 feels so deeply unjust. After decades of shared success and loyalty, the loss is more than economic, it's personal. The Kentucky miracle, once a story of hope and transformation, has come to an abrupt end. Now the community is left to pick up the pieces and ask the hardest question of all. How did it all go so wrong? The Georgetown shutdown wasn't a single decision, but the result of a perfect storm of global pressures. The main culprit: escalating trade wars and unpredictable tariffs. Tariffs on steel, aluminum, and electronics threw supply chains into chaos. TMMK relied on a seamless flow of parts from around the world. Trade disputes poisoned that system. At first, Toyota absorbed the costs, but as conflicts dragged on, it became unsustainable. Tariffs forced constant supplier changes, driving up complexity and costs. The price of building a Camry in Kentucky rose, not from labor, but from taxes on essential parts. America First policies made U.S. manufacturing more expensive and less competitive. The plant, designed for global efficiency, was especially vulnerable. Production became erratic, costs ballooned, and financial viability eroded. The just-in-time system Toyota pioneered couldn't survive the chaos. The storm made landfall, and TMMK was at its epicenter.